So we're going to start recording.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. Nice. Shit, I can't believe this actually worked. Mick, how are you?
I'm doing all right, David. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a while. Both of us have been very busy with like life stuff. Yeah, there was a little bit of a gap in our publishing, but you know what? That's what we do. We gotta live and gotta work, right, buddy?
Yep. It's worth the wait. That's all I can say. It's worth the wait.
Exactly.
There you go.
We went to the New York Audio Show. Is that what it was called? The New York Audio
Oh,
Show?
yes, yes, sir. Also, the T.H.E. show, which I don't know. Don't even get me
I don't
started.
even know what that means, but
I
yeah.
know it's weird, but it's the T.H.E. show. The very confusing to me, but yes, it was a New York Audio Show, which ironically enough was in New Jersey.
That is ironic.
It's totally ironic.
All right, yeah. So we went to the New York Audio Show in Jersey, and that was actually my first audio show. You know, crazy enough, but yeah, that was, I'm what, 54 now, and been an audiophile my whole life, and I've never actually been to an audio show. So,
You don't look a day over 53 in 11 months,
well,
Dave.
thank you. No, I
Yeah.
kind of appreciate the
I know I know how to be
the
nice.
sentiment. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it was very exciting to see you at your first. I've been to a fair number, but not like I don't like sit and try to hit everyone. There's some like I've never been down to Capitol Fest. I'd love to get down there, and so there's certainly like I could certainly go to more. I love them, but yeah, I have a little bit of a head start on you. I've been to a handful, but
Mm-hmm.
I was glad I was glad to be there with you for the first one.
Yeah, no, I was and I was happy to be there. It wasn't as like big and as like overwhelming as I thought it would be because I have been to conventions before, like NAB in Las Vegas. I've been to NAB,
Right.
I don't know, maybe 4 times, and that insanity is mind blowing. They're in like 2 or 3 convention centers now, or maybe 2 convention centers, like one hotel, and it's impossible to see everything. That was sort of the same thing that we ran into at this audio show. I wasn't sure like what to do when we got there. It's like, "Oh, I wanna go here, I wanna go here, I wanna go here," and you basically, like, grabbed me by the throat, threw me against the wall, and you're like, "Look, this is like a buffet, okay? You take a little bit here, you take a little bit there, and then you move on. Maybe you come back for maybe another piece of filet mignon, but, you do it gently, just sort of barrel into it." And I said, "Okay, get your hand off my throat. I get it."
Yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
You know what? I would have done precisely the same thing.
I hope the bruises have subsided since then. I hope they've gone away.
Well, that's why God invented turtlenecks. So instead of like diving into the buffet and just like coming back with like 2 pounds of shrimp on my plate, I agreed with you, and I was like, okay, so let's do this rationally. Let's figure this out. And so we went just room to room to room, spent about what, like 5-10 minutes in each room.
Yep.
And then we kept like mental notes. I probably should have brought like a pad and kept like real notes, but what are you gonna do? I think we got a very good sense, actually. It wasn't that big, not that big a show. Not that big a show, right?
No, no, it was spread out over a few different levels, but there were two main floors kind of that they had the rooms like they do at Expo and these other ones in this big hotel. They're set up in hotel rooms.
Yeah.
And then they had on the lower level when you first went in, there were a few like more premium, bigger kind of like showcase rooms. And then they had another level when we went back behind like that the front entrance side behind that, there was another set of so I mean it was a good size, but it was very manageable. We basically saw the whole thing in half a day, which was really good.
Yeah, no, it was good. I think right when our feet started to ache, we were like, okay, I think we've seen enough. One of the first rooms we went to was Verdant Audio with our friend Scott Bierfeld from Verdant Audio. So he was rocking some Lin equipment there that sounded really, really, really nice. Do you recall anything about that room?
I'm familiar with Lynn. I know this was some new stuff new gear. Obviously, I hadn't heard this particular setup. I liked it, but as I went around the room and kind of came and bounced in and out, I didn't think that like stood out. It was just great sound. But I'm always looking for that slightly different thing, or just an incredible value, or something that pushes the technology envelope a little bit. Lynn is just like a super premium brand that if you have that big beautiful home in Bel Air, California, and you've got that 2,000 square foot room you want to entertain in or something, and you get a nice big honkin' system like that, and you'd be very, very happy,
Yeah.
but for me it's like, okay, I've heard a lot of awesome systems like that, so I just personally, nothing, I don't mean to sound like damning with faint praise or disrespecting it. I'm just saying, like, it was great, it's Lynn, got it, but it didn't like stop me dead in my tracks. And I just, but a few other rooms did for different reasons.
Yeah, definitely. I was kind of floored at the quality of the vinyl setup that he had. It sounded really nice, and I did crack a joke that nobody laughed at. Somebody asked what those black things were in the back by the front wall, and he's like, "Oh, those are milk crates for the background." So of course I asked if the milk crates were powered with linear power supplies.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
We were all laughing on the inside, David. I promise you. We were all laughing on the inside.
yeah, the reaction that you just had was the reaction of everybody else in the room. I thought it was fucking funny, man.
All right.
I thought
Okay.
I thought it was funny.
You just hold on to that grudge and you just let it fester there in your soul. And maybe next year you can go back and really give Scott or Lynn a piece of your mind.
Maybe I'll just
Well,
go back and do the same joke again. Because if it
there
didn't
you
work the
go.
first time, maybe it'll work the second or third time.
There you go. Yeah, and I agree with you, by the way, on the vinyl. Maybe that was, the nicest vinyl setup, though that had some serious competition too. But yeah, Lynn's not messing around. They're one of the all-time greats in terms of turntable history and technology. So yeah,
Yep.
totally agree with you on that.
Cool. So we're gonna talk about the show. We're gonna talk about our impressions, but we also, because we're a professional, we actually got some interviews today.
Yes.
Yeah,
We
we interviewed Leo Ayzenshtat from Orchard Audio. We also ordered? No, we interviewed Neil Blanchard from Neil
Yeah.
Blanchard Designs, and Robert Lighton from Robert Lighton Audio. And we're also going to go through what we thought was best in show. You're going to give your opinion for best in show. I will give my opinion for best in show.
You right? Sounds good.
All right. We walked down the hall from Verdant, and right next to Verdant actually was Neil Blanchard. Now, Neil Blanchard, he has a company called Neil Blanchard Designs, and he essentially builds what are known as transmission line speakers, which
Yes.
which I didn't really understand what transmission line speakers were, but he designs mass-loaded transmission line speakers, and he was displaying his speakers with equipment from Gishelli Labs and with cabling from Pine Tree Audio. Now, I did interview with him, and let's hear about his speakers. Let's hear what he has to say about his speakers. All right.
The speakers I have here today are my sixth and my seventh designs. The Tower 44, so 4-inch tweeter 4-inch. That's the sixth one. They're slim, 5.5-inch wide, just more than that, and 10.5-inch deep, 1 meter high, so roughly 40 inches. They're tuned to 25 hertz. And they use a Dayton Audio midwoofer and the SP Acoustics tweeter, which is the same tweeter that's in the Super Tower prototypes. They have a Satori 6-inch paper cone driver that is my first foray into expensive drivers. I've always built things to a budget, but people said, "Hey, sounds good, but what would it be with a better driver?" And I said, well, it's a little bit better.
Yeah, sure. All right, so I sound like a fucking idiot. Okay, it's like
Oh,
I'm sitting. Well, I'm sitting there nodding and being like, yeah, 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 yeah. I don't understand half the shit that that he's talking about. But he said that something that did catch my attention was that he said that these speakers were tuned down to 25 hertz. Now that's like pretty damn low. Now his speakers, you can't. This is audio only, so you can't see my hands. But they're the speakers were quite narrow, fairly tall, maybe like 4 feet tall, but narrow. And I was of the mind that can they actually reproduce bass? And he says that yeah, they will go down to 25 hertz. And the drivers themselves are actually quite small. So
yep.
this kind of goes against everything that I grew up with. I was understand that mass equals bass, and yet here are these speakers that, by looking at them, you wouldn't think that they had bass. But my goodness, let's cue the gushing fanboy. I would never guess that drivers of that size could produce the bass that you demonstrated with. What was that track?
It's that was Jeff Castellucci. It's a cover of the Simon and Garfunkel song "Sound of Silence," and it has synthesizer bass in it that supplements his voice. He's got a amazing bass voice, but also sings the tenor parts. The track has as low as 23 hertz on it, and the speakers hit that.
They hit it.
Well, that's the beauty of transmission line, and what I love about them. I'm a big fan of transmission line. The concept is basically like in the simplest form, like a pipe organ. You think if you've seen pipe organs, the little short, skinny little pipes go teet teet teet, and then you got the big diazepam, whatever, the big huge 16-foot, they go up to 32 feet, I think, that hit those super, super low notes. Now it's not a direct one-to-one comparison. The purpose and the generation, the sound generation of the pipe organ, it's different with the pipes. But basically it's taking what you just said about like mass and the speaker with like dynamic drivers, and just saying like it's an acoustical approach to bass response. So it's really a relationship between the volume and length of the actual cabinet. That's why it's a long, skinny cabinet like that. That has to be very precisely figured out and engineered to match a certain ratio of the frequency.
Right,
The
right.
frequency response. So it's because these speakers, they can they can vibrate at those frequencies. They can vibrate at 23 hertz 23 times a second. It's just that, can they produce any power and do it? So that's where the sound that is coming down is tuned for particular frequency response that will enhance. And I hope I'm doing that right. I'm trying to be as just general, and I'm not. I don't play a audio scientist. I don't go for that drag. I don't get into science drag, but I mean, just conceptually, and I've always been impressed with the sound, and I love them. And I think for a flat pack, don't forget it's a DIY project,
That's
so
right. Yeah, I was gonna bring
they'll
that.
sell the flat pack. I think it's a brilliant solution. I think
Yeah.
it's brilliant for people who are pretty handy. I'm not.
I'm not.
Who want to put something together and they punch way above their weight.
100%, 100%. Actually, I asked him about the advantage of a I asked him what's a transmission line speaker, and then what's the advantage. And I think he kind of repeats what your explanation. But let's take a listen.
Basically, the principle of a mass-loaded transmission line, if you think of a horn, like a saxophone or a trombone or an oboe or even a pipe organ,
See, pipe organ.
has this same idea. Basically, the driver is located at a very precise place in that air column, and the air column is what pulls the tuning of the driver lower than it would otherwise be. And it's folded up inside the cabinet, tapering smaller towards the terminus opening, which looks like a port on the outside, but it doesn't act like a port. You get a lot of acoustic power out of a small driver, which does several things. It lowers the air pressure that's inside the cabinet. There is some pressure, but it's less than in the sealed speaker, certainly. So the driver isn't working against that air spring. So the mid-range is really clean, and it's more like an open baffle. And the reduced air pressure means less cabinet flex. So you get less resonance to begin with in a cabinet.
Yeah, man, that sounds like your explanation. So I think you were right on the spot. You get a gold star for the day.
Oh, thank you. I think he explained it better, but I was just trying to whip it up out of thin air just based on my knowledge of them. Because it seems like a magic trick, right? You're like, wait a second, like what's the trick? There's a subwoofer hiding in the cabinet or something, but
Right.
there's not. And they just have a different sound, like like he said, he was running like a Dayton audio driver in there. He's not sitting there saying, "Oh, this is a diamond dust encrusted, whatever." Like,
Yeah.
you're not trying to sell the speaker tech because it's nature. He's selling he's selling the natural flow of air
Yeah.
through the cabinet, through it's beautiful, and it's a wonderful way of approaching and doing speaker design. I really am a big fan, and I thought Neil's doing a terrific job, and I really hope he has great success with these, because I thought they sounded wonderful.
They really did. I mean, I was pretty blown away. Not just with the surprising amount of bass response, but also with the detail and the mid range and all that stuff. And for speakers at the price that he's selling them for, I mean, yes, they're DIY, but super high quality. I mean, I was kind of floored, and because they're DIY, they come unfinished. And I asked him, why did they come unfinished? Let's hear what he has to say.
I don't want to spend time finishing my speakers. I want to listen to them and move on to the next one.
Very, very audiophile response. I want to listen to the damn things. I don't want to spend a lot of time, polishing them up. Neil's a solid dude.
Well, let's give him I was going to say, let's give him a shout out. NB for Blanchard Designs.work.
Yep.
Neil Blanchard Designs. It's nb.designs.work. And yeah, I'm scrolling through it right now, and it has a lot more information. And you go, Neil. I love what you're doing.
Yeah. I did, of course, I have to ask him what kind of music he listened to. So let's hear what he had to say.
I listen to a wide range, but one of the things I sort of depend on is I listen to a lot of early music, so-called. Viola da Gamba. There's a player named Jordi Sabal who is now in his 70s, I think, and he's got hundreds of recordings. For those of you don't know what a viola da gamba is, think a 6-string cello with frets. The reason it's called, it's viola of the leg. Gamba means leg, and they hold it between their calves as they play it. So it's a really resonant, just a rich instrument, natural. I've heard him play in concert at least 6 times, and others playing it. So I like that acoustic as a basis for hearing the speaker. And then I listen to a lot of rock. I listen to Radio Paradise, which is a great online radio station.
Yeah.
And I've learned more music than I can name. New groups that are just blow you out of the water and just sort of make your spine tingle. So it runs a gamut.
So look, he's got the what was that thing called? The Vasco da Gama or something? It was sounds like a sort of obscure stringed instrument, but yeah, I'm gonna check it out and say, because I love like the cello, I love stringed instruments, I love the viola, and of course I had to ask him about Steely Dan. What's your opinion on Steely Dan?
I had a bad experience early on. It was high school days in my car, and I heard Ricky, Don't You Lose That Number 3 times a day, I swear. And it just, I soured on them. I was into things like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and I listened to Cat Stevens. I listened to Neil Young and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Yeah.
The Who. early music taste. And then I had a roommate in college who just introduced me to the Clash and Peter Gabriel and
Oh, there you go.
a ton of new stuff that I just was like, oh, okay, there's a lot of good stuff out here. So it's gone on since then.
Emerson, Lincoln, Palmer, huh?
I was there. Pictures in an exhibition, baby.
Yeah.
That was when I was about 11. That was ruled my world, that
Yeah.
album.
Yeah.
And then his first album, Take a Pebble and Lucky Man, and then of course the famous Brain Salad Surgery and
Mhm.
Carnival 9. Yes, I was a huge
Yep.
fan, but as a kid, and they were the first prog band that I kind of grew out of.
Cool. Well, that was Neil Blanchard. When we come back, we have an interview with Leo Ayzenshtat from Orchard Audio and Robert Lighton, and then we will also talk about our best in show.
Awesome.
We will be back in 30 seconds. That's if we have a sponsor, or we'll be right back in 5 seconds. All right, we are back. Let's move on. How you holding up, Mick? Your feet okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So we continued down the hall, and one room that, of course, we wanted to check out was Orchard Audio. Now, Orchard Audio is a company that is run by Leo Ayzenshtat. Let's hear his quick origin story.
My first job out of college, I designed a Class D amplifier for a fire alarm system. That's certainly not anything hi-fi at that point, but that's what sort of made me start thinking about it. Well, I can design something for my house, and I did at that point.
Look, I mean, the guy's an engineer. You know, he right out of school, it was designing shit for fire alarms. I mean, obviously, he's pretty clever. You've heard of Orchard Designs, right, Mick?
Yes, Orchard Audio, definitely from the beginning. I thought they had been around a lot longer. I thought he'd been selling his work longer, but he said it was really only within the last 5-6 years. But I could have sworn it was longer than that. I think became aware of him through his first streamer called the Pecan Pie. Everything with Orchard has to do with an orchard theme. So the pecan pie or pecan pie, if you prefer.
I say because
Um,
I'm a snob.
yeah. And I remember seeing it and hearing it. And I knew he was going into uh, Class C amplification as well. And the reviews, the first early things I read may have not just been on like online through like message boards and things. Everything sounded super strong, super good. And it was just thrilling. He just finally quit his day job and he's doing Orchard full time. And, I think he's doing amazing work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was pretty floored by the demo. But before we get into that, let's hear about his design philosophy.
The quote that I like to use from Leonardo da Vinci is, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And so all of my products focus on audio quality. That's the number one feature. And, the less parts and equipment you put in the audio chain, the less noise and distortion you introduce.
Simplicity, right?
Yeah.
Keep it simple, stupid. That's what makes his gear unique. But let's hear what he has to say about what makes his gear different.
One of the biggest differences with my products is that all of my products are based solely on objective measurements. There's no voicing in my products. So all my products are neutral and transparent, and I leave it up to the customer to add the voicing that they like.
Okay, so here we are. We are now talking about measurements versus using your ears to tune equipment. Now, I am of the mind that I like coloration, but he comes at from a different point of view. He's not saying that coloration is bad. What he's saying is that with his products, he wants to keep it as neutral as possible and let the user add the coloration with preamps or tubes or whatever. So I can dig where he's coming from. What are your thoughts about him being a measurements first type of engineer?
Well, I think it's whatever the philosophy is, the proof's got to be in the pudding, right? And his products are just absolutely fantastic. I've heard a lot of components that measure very well that to me just sound like butt. Like I just don't like them. They're too thin, too reedy, too digital, too clinical, too whatever. So you can, and I don't think those were intentionally voiced that way. It just comes down to like every single piece of wire, every capacitor, every component that is used to compile that is compiled under the hood of each component is going to affect it in one way or another. So simplicity is sometimes the hardest thing in the world to pull off, because you can pull it off, but like I said, I've seen things that people, the measurement freaks, go, oh, look at that, look at that.
Right.
But his stuff has always been different to me, and I don't know what the secret sauce is. I mean, I love the new generation of HypeX N Core Class Ds are great. He's always been designing his own amplification, and I don't have a meaningful, like I say, comparison to say, oh, Leo's stuff is different in this way or that way, technologically, but I just know his stuff is fantastic. I would jump on his stuff without hesitation. I love his whole aesthetic, his whole approach, his design is just amazing.
Yeah, it became fairly apparent actually that you are a big fan of his work. Let's cue the gushing fanboy here.
Leo, I want to ask you, I can't believe it was only 2017. But I remember then I seemed like more time than that has passed, but it's like pre-COVID, post-COVID, whatever. But
Yeah.
it seemed to come out with a splash though, because I remember you must have read about you right at the very beginning. I mean, it seemed like your products were getting covered and very well reviewed right from the start. Or I ain't that right?
I think probably in like 2020, 2021, I started getting a lot more coverage.
Okay.
Especially when I won the product of the year in the Absolute Sound in 21. That was probably the thing that really kicked it off.
Oh yeah.
Absolute Sound 2021 product of the year. So his newest amplifier, I think let's let him explain what his newest amplifier is.
So I called him Star Crimson. Star Crimson is a type of pear. All Orchard Audio products are named after things that grow in orchards. So pears in this case. And also they're mono, so you need a pair of them.
Clever.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I sound like a dick there. Yeah, clever. So yeah, the Star Crimsons, these are monoblock amplifiers, and yeah, named after pears, but they are Class D, and let's hear about the guts of the amps, and I'm gonna ask him a very pointed and intelligent and well thought out question. So grab. I want you to grab a helmet for this one.
They're completely my own proprietary design using gallium nitride transistors. They're fully balanced input to output. And
Now, why do you use gallium nitride? Because I don't know what that is.
gallium nitride is a type of material that's used to make the transistor. And it makes the transistor operate much faster than the MOSFETs, which is the traditional transistor.
Yeah.
And so that allows the amplifier to have a higher switching speed. The new ones I just released, the Star Crimson 25, are at 1100 kilohertz.
Oh.
Oh. So from what I understand, when you have a Class D amp, you've got transistors in there. And from what I understand, the faster the transistors, the more accurate the sound is going to be. Now, I'm sure the engineer types are going to like jump all over me and say that that's not a explanation. But you know what? I kind of think it is. And a lot of Class D amps are going with the gallium nitride. Do you have thoughts on that?
No, again, that's a little bit above my pay grade. I appreciate and understand, like for instance, I was looking up the HypeX Encore, uh the switching speeds, they it says reportedly around 500K, so 470, 530K. Now he's saying his gallium nitrides are switching at 1100. So what does that, how or if or does it really affect the sound? I don't know. There's a lot of this is a world where there's a lot of claims about a lot of things all the time by a lot of people. And occasionally they're significant. A lot of times they're not. But if Leo is using them, he's an actual real engineer who knows is exceptionally brilliant in audio design. If he finds value in them, then I know there's value in them. That's something that's all I would that's what all I would say.
You hit the nail right on the head. How do they sound? And let's hear what he has to say about that.
With my amps, you get a completely flat frequency response through the whole audio range, and essentially no phase shifts at all from DC or from 0 hertz up to 20 kilohertz.
All right, so they're flat. They're gonna taste like whatever you put in them. So if you have a tube preamp, they're gonna develop a warmer sound simply because of that flat frequency response. Okay, so why Class D? I'm always curious as to what drives engineers and designers to, certain designs. Let's hear what he has to say.
I basically stuck with the Class D amplifier because of the efficiency. And, I injured my back years ago, so I can't be picking up 40, 50 pound amps, and Class D doesn't have that
Interesting.
that problem. And
So is that a necessity?
a little bit out of necessity, yeah. And, and certainly, at least in my opinion, Class D amplifiers, can have the performance of any other class of amplifier.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy had a bad back, Class D. They're small, they're light, and they perform.
Yeah. Well, necessity being the mother of invention and all that. And you know what? His timing couldn't have been better because the Class D kind of revolution was really, Class D amps have been around a long time. They've been used in subwoofers uh, for a long time, but they really just came of age I'd say in the last 10 years. And he's certainly a leader in that area. So, I think it's a perfect choice of necessity and being at the right product at the right place at the right time.
Exactly. And he also told us about what it's like being an audiophile and an engineer.
I'm actually not an audiophile, quote unquote. I came into this more from a design perspective. I love tinkering and like being in the lab and solving problems. And, that's what I get to do. And when I was working in the corporate world, I had to do a lot of the engineering stuff. There was also a lot of, politics and all sorts of other things, which got in the way of the engineering and all of these things. And now I get to do it. I get to focus on the engineering and do what I like.
All right, so he's not an audiophile, but it sounds like he's in a good place.
For sure. And I'll give a little spoiler alert since we're talking about Leo. I'm going to jump the gun and tell you that was my favorite for I will say favorite in show, not best in show, because I don't like that best. That's so subjective. But my favorite in show was what he was running, which were the sound field. He's worked to put his technology inside Soundfield Audio Designs. I think they're based out of Florida, and he had the 1212 Overture speakers there with his amplification inside, and he was just running it through his Pecan Pi Plus streamer and preamp. And boy, for the show, the whole setup he had, that beautiful little streamer and preamp, the cabling and the two active speakers, I think it was the list price would have been about 16,000, which is also a ridiculous bargain, but he was trying to move it for about half that out of the show, and oh God, I would have absolutely run out the door with that if I could have afforded it. I just would have just scooped it up and that's it. I would have wheeled it out with me.
I was pretty floored, man. Those sound fields, not only good looking speakers, but damn, did they sound good. Holy moly. We do have one more quote from our friend here, and let's hear about his prediction for the future.
Yeah, I see things becoming more integrated. Yeah, like putting the amplifiers inside the speakers. The prices of everything is going up. People can't afford large real estate anymore, and so you can't have, especially for the younger folks, they don't have room for these large, systems that have, 5, 6, 7 different big components in a rack. I don't know where you put the rack.
Single box solutions that really, yeah, a lot of solutions.
So like more integrated items, yeah. And then when you start putting everything inside the speaker, you're saving even more space. So yeah, I see everything becoming more integrated.
Here's where I deviate from that prediction. While there are products out there that are fully integrated, powered speakers with a built-in streamer, audiophiles at the core, most of us, I'm not going to say all, but most audiophiles at the core, we like to tinker. We like to build a system consisting of different components. And when we build it, we're happy with it until we're not, until we discover, oh, wait, there's a new amplifier out there. There's something else out there. So we want to listen to it. Now with powered streaming speakers, you don't really get the opportunity to tinker. What are you going to do? Like grab a drill and start, taking the things apart and pulling stuff out? I mean, it's madness. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think that integrated systems are the future, or will it just become yet another product category and the tinkering habit that audiophiles have will ultimately win out?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. I think integrated is what's nice is that it all used to be integrated. You used to have those big console record player and the speakers built in, those big heavy wooden cabinet things that some of us still had and grew up in the 70s and 80s. They were more big in the 50s and 60s, but a lot of them were still in use when I was young. Um, and that was an all-in-one, and the receiver itself, with an FM receiver and multiple inputs and has a built-in preamp and amplifier, that was what an integrated amp was. So, you know, the there's always been that's always been a big part, I think, of the audio industry. I think the fact that it's coming back together, maybe for the reasons he stated, but it's also partially because Class D amplification. So the heat is a big issue, right? If you're trying to engineer something, especially with audio, like heat, because the inefficiency gives off so much heat, like in Class A. I don't know what the efficiency is, but I think it's only about 15% or something crazy. You're losing something like 80% of it in heat.
Yeah,
And I think
you're basically buying a space heater that plays music.
yeah, and Class A, B, I think they got the efficiency up to about 40 or so to 50%. And my numbers may be a little off, but it's been a long time since I looked up any of that stuff. But and then Class D, you're approaching 90%, and that's huge. And when you can make things and look, let's be honest, they have a lot fewer components. They're a lot smaller, or at least they can be. It's just wonderful. It's a wonderful time for us because in this hobby, because the technology is enabling so many other cool configurations like this. I mean, you have these beautiful big tower speakers that really look like these kick-ass speakers that you'd see in the 80s, these big overbuilt things. And but at the same time, there's just a slim little streamer preamp device
Mhm.
that's on the shelf. That's all you have, is you have that and these beautiful speakers with everything internal. And don't forget, David, I mean, one thing they could do is talking about the tinkering. I mean, with speakers, it's a little easier because you can always, I would assume, find a way to replace the amplification if need be.
Yeah.
You can replace the drivers. You can figure you have to match things. You have to be careful. You have to know what you're doing. It's not like popping tubes in and out. It's more of an effort, but I think that's open for tinkering. Whereas some of these one box solution integrated streamer and amps and all that, sort of like what I'm running, my NAD, M10 V2 that is not user configurable. It's like an iPhone. Like you can't just take that out and mod that. You know, but that's what I wanted specifically. I wanted to give the integrated of feeling a chance, and I've been super happy with it.
Cool, man. Well, look, we're going to take another break. And when we come back, we're going to play our interview with Robert Lighton from Robert Lighton Audio. And we're going to talk about the not the best in show, but favorite in show for me, since you've already given yours away. So we'll be back in just 2 and 2. Welcome back to the Sound or Music. I'm David Jones, and
I am Mick Jones.
we're together, and we're talking about the New York Audio Show that we went to a little while back.
Hey.
And we have another interview, and this is with a gentleman named Robert Lighton, and he had one of the big rooms downstairs with literally $1 million worth of audio note gear connected to his R12 speakers. The audio note gear, if you know it, you know it. The most impressive pieces that I just like gravitated towards were the Audio Note Ongaku integrated amplifiers. They're absolutely just the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I mean, they're just these giant copper single-ended tube amplifiers. They were just incredible. I mean, they were sitting there on the ground, and I anything that's copper and shiny, I'm just drawn to it like a moth to the flame. And they were connected to his RL12 speakers, which are 12-inch woofers. Well, I'll let Robert describe them, but this for me was the favorite system of the show. Yes, it was big. Yes, it was expensive, but you know what? The sound was rich, and it was like natural. You know, when we walked into the room, he was playing Mozart Piano Sonata. You know, very, very, very simple music, but good golly, Miss Molly, did it sound good? Did you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it was a really impressive system, and the speakers were phenomenal. And his associate there was kind of walked me through the sort of crossover design and how to get it. And I couldn't really follow, but they had those guts spilled out there on the floor that need like a separate housing for.
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, the crossover, there was no cover on it. It was just like a mess of wires and capacitors and all sorts of mean, nasty looking things. But yeah, it was impressive.
Yeah, and that again, like it sounded like $1 million. I'll tell you that. It sounded like $1 million.
Yeah. Well, I cornered Robert in the room, and I asked him, what was the theory behind his speaker design, and what makes them work. Let's hear what he has to say.
My theory on reproduced sound is in three different categories. The first category is what we call spatial characteristics, which would be what we call the sound stage, maybe the imaging, frequency response. I kind of lump it all in there. The second aspect is tone. How much does it sound like a real instrument?
Right.
Music is nourishment.
Yes.
Music is good for you.
Yes.
And the third aspect of what makes a speaker work is speed. Okay, that's not something that you hear of too much.
Right.
That's what makes your toe tap, is the rhythm. Music, particularly classical music, it happens very fast. You go to Carnegie Hall and they play Beethoven's Fifth, and it's blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it's so fast. And like most systems, the woofer has trouble keeping up or something like that. So those are the three things: spatial characteristics, tone, and speed. Those are the things that inspired us.
So yeah, man. I mean, what did you think about what he had to say about what makes a good speaker?
It sounds great. Sounds right on the money. And again, what I love hearing is these different designers. Like we talked about Leo at Orchard Audio and his feelings about simplicity and being very flat sounding, and then Robert's, breakdown of the speaker, sort of things that make a speaker a speaker. It just gives you an insight into it is their design philosophy and how they approach things. And yeah, I thought the drivers that Robert's been designing, and they're all custom, bespoke drivers, were just among the best I ever heard. I
Yeah.
thought I thought the system was utterly incredible.
Yeah, yeah, and super nice guy too. Like
Yeah.
I was really pleased that here's this dude who clearly has had success in his life, and he was more than happy to give an interview and talk about this stuff with us. I asked him about the speakers specifically that he was playing at the show. Let's listen to what he said.
So the speakers are made of solid wood, solid sapele mahogany, and it's comprised of two drivers only, a 12-inch woofer and an 8-inch full range. There's no tweeter. And each of the drivers uses Alnico magnets.
12-inch woofer, and what did he say? An 8-inch full range and no
Yeah.
tweeter. Yeah, and external crossover. So if you can picture that, and then yeah, the Alnico magnet, which let's see what he has to say about Alnico, because I don't know that much about him.
Alnico magnet came into the being after field coils when everything was electrified, and then and Alnico uses cobalt.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and it's extremely expensive.
Sure.
And then in the 50s, ferrite magnets came in, and that was cheaper, and everybody went to that. But Alnico magnets, which are very common in guitar amps, has a much denser, throatier sound. When you listen to the human voice, it's much denser. You listen to applause, and it's distinct.
Yeah.
Usually, if you use applause, it'll go just like that, right?
Okay, and Alnico magnet. Let me just do a quick little Google search on that, because I think it is, yes, aluminum, nickel, and cobalt.
Yes.
Go. And yeah, they're in electric motors, sensors, and certain type of guitar pickups. Sounds expensive. I think the price of the speakers is around $100,000 for the pair. But man, from what I heard, look, I can't afford it, but if I had the money, I would certainly jump in on that. Let's have him tell us more about the speaker construction.
The 12-inch woofers crossed over at 400 hertz. So this full range driver goes flat to 20K. It has a whizzer cone, and then it's a 22K. It's minus 3 dB, which is just mind-blowing. And I don't like using too many multiple drivers. A lot of people will double up on bass to raise the sensitivity and that kind of thing. The cabinet is fully time aligned, phase coherent. It's an outboard crossover. It's a full first order crossover, which are much more difficult to design. We've spent a year working on this. The front baffle is a grill cloth, but inside that grill cloth is a 1/4-inch piece of wool felt.
It sounds like they really thought everything through. And again, with the crossover and the 3 dB, I'm not entirely sure what all that means, but I think what he's saying is he doesn't want to get too many things in the way of the signal. And so, yes, while the crossover seems to be doing a lot of heavy lifting on this system, the signal really only gets split up into two. So there's the 12-inch woofer, and then everything else is coming out of the 8-inch full range. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, one thing, I go back to the Alnico speaker. I was familiar with those speakers and a big fan of them from playing guitar. So I had those in guitar amps, and I always wanted like the vintage Jensen Alnicos if I could get them. I had them in a number of amps. So I certainly agree with what he says about there is a characteristic. Again, I can't speak to the technical side, the scientific side of it, the magnet composition and why it is, but I do know that the sound was very clear. I thought clearly superior on those. So it's just interesting to hear someone have such a high opinion of them in the audiophile community because as a guitar player, I loved Alnico speakers.
Sure. Yeah. One thing that I noticed about at the show was that the higher the price of the systems that we were listening to, the I guess the soul factor, that X factor, the Q factor, whatever you want to call it, went down. They seemed to feel very exacting but very cold. So there were a lot of systems there, well into the six figures, possibly breaking into the seven figures that I was listening to, and I was like, you know what? I don't, I don't, I don't love it. I like it, and it's very accurate, but it didn't wow me until I heard Robert's system, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is what this is what I'm looking for. This really scratches the itch. And yeah, if I had, seven figures to drop on a system, that's the direction I would want to go in. Did you notice that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to mention any names either. And I was a little surprised because some of the names that I felt that way about, let's say just a little bit kind of underwhelmed or not really, yeah, just kind of a shoulder shrug, even though they're like big expensive systems and speakers. Some of them are brands that I have heard in other contexts that I really liked. So whether it's just a matter of the system matching or the other choices being made, room acoustics, there's so many variables you have to take into account. But I agree with you. Robert's system was, for me, was the cost with price no object. If price is no object, that's the system I take. I loved Leo's though for my favorite in show because I'm always looking, especially for beginners, or not that an $8,000, $10,000 system is a beginner system, but it could be for some people, or people looking for that next level of performance, who already have kind of a starter thing and moving up the food chain. I just felt like I'm a big fan of bang for buck. So I thought the bang for buck of Leo's was just the Orchard Audio and the Soundfield 1212 overtures was just too good.
Yeah.
Too good to pass up. Like I said, I wanted to wrap them up and just take them home with me. But if you're in the cost no object, price money means nothing. I bought Bitcoin in 2008 and now I'm a trillionaire. So, um, then Rob Lighton is probably the guy I'm going to call to design speakers for me.
He did go on to tell us about the problems that you run into designing speakers. Let's hear what you have to say.
We have three basic problems. You have baffle deflections coming off the front.
Right.
You have cabinet resonances, and you have cone breakup modes. So we have attenuated all of these things. We've taken everything out, and that's why our crossover is so huge.
I got you.
And the crossover will be outboard, and it will be in two boxes on each side, and that will require totally for the whole thing 24 binding posts. But that's the way and I had somebody say to me, well, I like the speakers, I can afford them, but I don't want two boxes behind there. I go, nature is not kind. Nature, this is what's required to get this sound.
Right.
But we will eventually make smaller speakers. It took so long to do this or to take a little break. But we have a lot of different drivers, and the drivers are all custom made for us in Japan. The baskets, the cones, the magnet system everything is custom made for us.
Wow. Look, it's not an exact science, but what I like is that he's very he's got a nice balance of quantitative and qualitative. So it sounds to me like he's very good at listening to something, designing something with an ear towards, well, how does it sound? And then being able to quantify, okay, what do we now do in order to minimize or neutralize, this as a cabinet resonance or what all the things that he listed, and apparently a lot of it comes down to the crossover, the giant pair of crossover boxes that was behind each speaker. But yeah, he's a smart dude.
There was just a next level of I don't want to say perfectionism. What does they say? What was that old saying? It's impossible to ever achieve perfection, but by pursuing it we may achieve greatness. And I think he's the guy who's like is pursuing perfection and absolutely achieving greatness. I was so impressed with Robert's stuff, and just really kind of amazed.
Yeah,
Uh,
the quote you were thinking of is, "Gentlemen, we will chase perfection and we'll chase it relentlessly, knowing all the while we can never attain it. But along the way we shall catch excellence." So
there you go. That's it.
Good quote.
It was either Mark Twain or Confucius because they said everything. Those guys said everything. So it's one of those two.
Or Vince Lombardi. Sure.
Oh, was it Vince Lombardi?
It was Vince Lombardi. Yeah, you were
All
right.
right.
Yes. So you get another gold star. Look at you.
Yeah.
Um,
Put me on Jeopardy.
I asked him what kind of music he listens to.
I listen to a lot of live music over the years. Go to Carnegie Hall constantly.
Sure.
I used to have Jean-Baptiste. Everybody knows him now. He played my apartment twice.
Oh, wow.
He was 20 years old.
Oh wow.
I used to have the Violent Femmes. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He was my neighbor. He came and played in my apartment a bunch. Joan Osborne played one night.
Love Joan Osborne.
Incredible.
Yeah, okay. Look, I don't have Jean Baptiste as a neighbor, or or the guy from Violent Femmes, but look, that's cool. I mean, that's very cool.
Well, he invited us. Don't forget, he invited us over. He's right in Connecticut, and we should head over there and do maybe a deeper dive on his.
Well, let's be clear. He invited me over.
Oh, shut up!
No, yeah.
He only added you because he felt sorry for you.
Look,
that was it.
Whatever it takes, I'll take it.
Yeah. All right. All right.
So we're in the middle of the interview. These two older gentlemen came up and they barged into the middle of the interview and wanted to give their unsolicited opinions.
We came here early this morning, and we heard this, and that was like the standard for us. Yeah, and then we traversed through. We heard a couple of good things, but I said my buddy here, I said, before we leave, we got to come back and
your dad's having a good room. You always had to visit twice.
it was wonderful.
I didn't pay you. Did I pay you something?
We're talking best of show. I have heard a lot of speakers in my day. I'm 77, and I'm telling you, there's very few here that I want.
Oh yeah.
If mine were stolen, I'd have to win the lottery and give myself a pair of these puppies. That's the show without a doubt.
There you have it. I mean, you can't
Right from the salty old codgers themselves.
exactly. But look, I'm not the kind of guy to blow smoke up somebody's ass, but when you nail it, you nail it. The speakers were damn fine, and the audio note equipment was absolutely stunning. I didn't know that much about audio note before I got there. I knew of them, but I didn't realize that they were like, that high a level of quality. Yeah, I mean, this stuff is gorgeous. This stuff is absolutely gorgeous. And he was running a vinyl system there as well, a custom built turntable, as it turns out. So yeah, that's my pick for favorite system of the 2025 The New York Audio Show in New Jersey. All right, folks. That wraps it up. Thanks for listening. I know this was a sort of a long one, and I know that it's been a little bit of a gap between shows, but for God's sakes, we're working steps. So
That's right. That's right.
that's what we got to do. All right, I'm David Jones,
Yeah, Mick Jones here.
and we will talk to you later. Keep your damn records clean.